give, get is a really good philosophy that I use, because so many times now people are like, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to get this. And sometimes that works, but it's super transactional. And because the nature of my business is so personal, I've tried to use that motto.
Hi, I'm Melanie Barr. Welcome to the She Built It Experience with Melanie. Join me as I talk to women who have successfully built it, a career and business that they love. We dive into the topic of how they built it and talk about everything from having the courage to make career leaps to the details of how to lead effectively, create successful teams, implement strategies for growth, and infuse tech innovation. Magic happens when we focus on the part of ourselves and our business that brings us joy. So let's dive in. Thank you for joining us, Ashton. You are a chef and culinary stylist with an extensive background in media and culinary startups. Tell us about your business and what led you to start it.
I am a chef by trade and fell into food styling because the space that I helped open up in Manhattan was very beautiful, and it converged with the time that social media was becoming a really big part of brand. So from the kitchen, I was able to transfer my skill set and become a food stylist and a recipe developer for brands, but not necessarily work in a traditional kitchen.
And so many people started cooking during COVID. And it's so funny because I'm flipping through my Instagram and I'll see something that's really good and I'll send it to my husband. We should make this. And food is so captivating to people as you're looking through social media because we all eat. And it's also a way of bringing people together.
100%. My mother was a chef and a caterer, and we always had a household that had a revolving door of food and people and entertaining. And the lesson that really stuck with me, and it's still my mantra, food is an act of love and an opportunity for beauty. It is one of the most universal connectors that we have. It's the most intrinsic form of self-care. If we use it for what those purposes are, it has such an ability to change the way that we feel, to change the way that people around us feel. It's why everybody always says that their favorite meal is their grandmother's meatballs or their mom's chicken, because it really has so little to do with what the food is. And obviously ingredients play a huge role in how something tastes or seasoning. But at the end of the day, I really do believe that it has so much less to do with what the food is and much more to do with what the energy is behind it.
And I also love how you took something you're passionate about and turned it into a business. It's not that easy for everyone to do. When I speak with women who are doing something they're passionate about and something that they love, how did you turn what you love into a business?
I was naturally inquisitive and creative. Both things led to a little bit of rule breaking. I was good at problem solving and seeing the bigger picture. In the midst of two different kitchen careers that I was going through, I would see a problem and I would say, wait a minute, why isn't it being fixed this way? And I would feel like I had to sit on my hands. And that was really challenging for me as a sense of efficiency. Why isn't this being done in the most efficient, creative, profitable way? So I started really small. I started seeing little problems in the vertical that I was competent in, cooking and making things look beautiful. But I would take pieces of what's the problem, what's the solution.
How do you want people to feel when they eat your food and experience your styling?
I just want people to feel seen and good. Most of the times people don't remember what they eat. If they're eating something and really enjoying their company and who they're with, whether that's one person or themselves, it's very rare that they walk away and say, maybe they will the next day and say, I want to make that chicken. That was really good. Or maybe the next week. But even if they do that, they usually will then recreate the recipe and make it their own. So then it's no longer what you had at that dinner party or where you pulled it from. It might take several times making that, but honestly, I find that most people don't remember what they ate. They just remember the way they feel. And so feeling really good and present, being present when you're eating and with food is really something that's irreplaceable.
Your styling is so beautiful. And I know how excited I get when you're at a restaurant and something is set in front of you and it's so beautifully presented. You get a little bit more excited.
Yes, eating with your eyes is paramount. We all know that. We're a visual creature. That time and care, even when you're cooking for yourself, when you put in to make something look really beautiful, it has a reciprocal nature. It comes back to make you feel better as well.
You have received recognition in the New York Times, Martha Stewart Wedding, and Food and Wine magazine. How does this feel for you, and what does it mean for your business?
It's very flattering and very nice. It's like the icing on the cake. It's nice to be recognized. I also think it's really cool because so much of what I do that's not seen is the behind the scenes copy or imagery for these publications. We've spoken about mutual friends that we have in media. And I think that working behind the scenes for so long has given me a great appreciation for all areas of it. So when you're recognized for it, it's a full circle because usually you know all the players behind it as well. So it's just a nice kind of touch.
And that's a great way of thinking about it, celebrating yourself for all the work and effort that goes into all that you do.
Yes, it's very nice. And media is a crazy thing. It's changing now. So sometimes it can be even just a recognition on social media or connecting with somebody.
You are also the author of 2 cookbooks. Tell us about them. And did you enjoy writing them and the publishing process?
I love cookbooks. I speak for many when I say they are what I look through when I'm having lunch. I use them for inspiration. I ironically rarely cook out of them, but I a lot of times use the imagery and the ideas and the words. I love a head note to a recipe too, which also tells you a lot about the author, their inspiration. Those are the things I find most inspiring about cookbooks. And writing my own I've written 2, I've self-published 2 cookbooks, and I've found the process really fun. It's a great way to pull together a collaboration of recipes that you've been working on. It's a great way to theme something. It's a labor of love. Anybody who writes a book will probably tell you that you're putting this creature into the world that's both vulnerability and also creativity and hoping that people receive it.
You have been featured with your cookbooks on NBC's Today Show, ABC's Good Morning America, and CNN. You are very good at PR. It is how we met. If someone wants to grow their business through PR and features like this, what advice do you have?
To really know your audience and to recognize that there's a long game here, and creating the connection, an authentic connection, is not always necessarily instantaneous. I worked with this editor at Oprah Magazine a long time ago. I used to do recipe develop for them, and she went on to create her own company. And she had at a moment in time, she had this little PR business, and she did a course that I took. And this saying that I always remember called give, get is a really good philosophy that I use, because so many times now people are like, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to get this. And sometimes that works, but it's super transactional. And because the nature of my business is so personal, I've tried to use that motto. It might not even be like giving them something tangible from my work. It might be somebody who reaches out to me and they're looking for a connection to somebody else. I know that it's intentioned. I know that they're an expert in their field. I'm not just handing out my Rolodex, but the give can be done in many different ways. And then I think building trust with that person creates this natural ripple effect of press and opportunity. And if you approach it like, the road is long, I'm always going to be doing this in some form or fashion. How do I align with people that are on the same journey as me and have the same morals and values as me and the same expertise in their field? And then when that happens, it doesn't really matter what they do. I work with people in fashion and design and the event space and the art world and media. If you use the tactic of genuine connection, giving as much as you receive, and seeing the long game, then you will naturally be able to have consistent and good PR, even without having somebody that you have on retainer.
It's so true. And one of your friends said you are an incredible connector, and you are, because you've connected me to a couple people. But you're right. When you do that, it comes back to you and people remember, and they'll remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also at the end of the day, I am so lucky to have so many wonderful mentors in this space. And Maureen Petrovsky, who's another wonderful writer and cookbook person who you should meet as well. She said to me something really important and that stuck with me as well. The pie just gets bigger. The slices don't get smaller because there's more people in this field. If you approach things with that mentality, everybody wins and everybody has more opportunities. We all know people who are like, that's mine. I don't subscribe to that philosophy in life or in business.
What do you think is the most important element of leadership when scaling a business?
It's actually something I struggle with, candidly. It's something that is not my forte. I'm sitting with this book in front of me about wolves and women, which is so bizarre, but I am a little bit of a lone wolf when it comes to how I create, and I get very cerebral about certain things. And because I have to turn it on sometimes for TV or whatever that looks like, I tend to conserve a lot of energy. It's something I've really had to learn. The thing that I've found success with is hiring people who are self-driven and motivated, and that people who also, again, very simply, and I know we've spoken about this offline, is that people who have the same like work ethic, morals and values, approach the world the same way, treat people the same way. I think that that is so wonderful when you're building and scaling. And I also think having people in person, we live in a super digital era and there's something wrong with that, but being in constant connection in a physical sense is really important as well. Hiring people who are those qualities, and then also being able to see them, and then also knowing what you're not good at and outsourcing that as well. That's a huge part of it, and focusing on what you do really well, because at the end of the day, only you can do that. Somebody else can do your taxes.
Right, yes. And we are still humans. That human connection, it still makes us feel good. And I'm so inspired by the women. Thank you for being so honest. I'm so inspired by women I talk to who are honest about looking at themselves and how do I need to, and what are the areas that I need to improve? And also your great advice for, yes, hiring out for people, being real with ourselves and saying, okay, no one's good at everything. I'm not the best at this. So I'm going to hire someone who's incredible at it and who loves to do it.
Exactly.
What is next for your company, and what would you like to see for the future?
I've thought long and hard about potentially opening up a cafe or a restaurant, dipping back into that world again. I'd like to publish another book, perhaps several. I'm based in New York. I would, on a personal level, love to have some place outside of New York where I can bop to and have a little bit more nature from time to time. That's something that really inspires me and helps me reset. I'm always somebody that really strives to continue to work with more and more people, because I find that you learn from more people.
And I could see your restaurant marrying your love of food and styling, your cookbook, and also your love of human connection.
Exactly. I was speaking with my fiance the other day about New York can be a little hard. I don't think that's a secret, and I love it dearly, but it's definitely a little.
It can be very hard, I think, compared to the rest of the country, which is exciting for a lot of people.
Absolutely. There's a bounty of opportunity here. Something that I've really noticed is that I was lacking some place to walk into and feel as good as I want people to feel when they eat my food. So if I can add just like a little bit of that, whether it's New York or someplace else, I think that would be a win.
Magic happens when we focus on the part of ourselves and our business that brings us joy. What is one way that you make sure to find and live your joy?
There's a book called The Upper Limit Problem by Gay Hendricks, which is really interesting. And he talks about how there's this zone of incompetence, which is things you should never do. Like for me, taxes. Zone of competence, which is things that we're good at and we get paid for. Most of the time we can check the box and do it. And then there's the zone of genius. And so for me, I would say my zone of genius and where I'm really in flow and what I try to do every day to be in that state of flow is obviously cooking. It really does. I keep coming back to the food. I forget everything else. I don't look at my phone. I don't think about anything else. I find myself to be a very impatient person by nature, just naturally. That's not my skill set. But when I cook, everything slows down. So if I just continue to infuse that, even if it's just a little bit, because so much of what I do now on a day-to-day might not be fully in the kitchen. If I make myself a meal or make people that I love a meal, I remember why I got here and how it all came to be. So I know it's really simple. That little piece of joy is just finding time to feed myself and people that I love.
Thank you for sharing your food, your styling, your passion, and your business wisdom with us. Tell us how and where we can find you.
Thank you for having me. You can find me at ashtonkeefe.com or at Ashton Keefe on Instagram.
Thank you for joining us today. I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me at hello@shebuiltit.com, on our She Built It website, or at She Built It on social. Thank you to my editor, Rich Streffolino, who always makes us sound good. Until next time, let nothing stop you from experiencing the life and business that you crave.